Hello, and welcome to the next in the Effective Writing Center series of workshops. I'm Dan Gallagher, director of the UWC. Tonight's workshop is titled How to Write and Design Your LinkedIn Page, America's #1 job site, and is being presented by Christine Hagedorn-Nordenholt and David Taylor. Christine earned an associate in business administration and then a bachelor's degree in journalism from St. John's University in New York City, as well as an MBA in international business from Wagner College in Staten Island, New York. She has worked in higher education for the past 25 years and has earned a UMUC Doctor of Management degree in 2013. She is presently a faculty member at Rosemont College near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. As a UMUC alumna, Christine feels honored to now serve her alma mater through our Effective Writing Center, where she has worked as a writing tutor since last spring. David Taylor is senior advisor at the Effective Writing Center, where he has worked since 2004 as a database advisor and writing fellow. A Carnegie Fellow at the University of Mississippi, David received his doctoral degree in composition and rhetoric. To ask a question during the broadcast, please use the chat feature in YouTube right below the viewing window. And this workshop, along with all of our workshops, will be archived for future viewing on my YouTube channel, so you can search YouTube for Daniel Gallagher at UMUC. And now let's begin tonight's workshop. Over to you, David.
All right. Well, thank you, Dan, for that introduction, and welcome to everyone joining us tonight or watching the archive of this presentation. Let's begin with a question. Why is the Effective Writing Center talking about LinkedIn, as Dan said, a professional networking site and job board? Because the writing that you do on LinkedIn is some of the most important writing you'll ever do in your career, now and in the future. However, writing on LinkedIn is very different than writing in school and in the workplace. So first, let's discuss why LinkedIn is important. And to do that, Christine will review some rather amazing facts. Christine?
Thank you, David. And it is such a pleasure to talk about this platform, which I enjoy using so much. So put simply, LinkedIn is the world's largest professional network, and it currently has more than 610 million members from 200 countries. So you might be thinking, if I have a LinkedIn profile and I can network professionally across the globe, what would I post on this worldwide network of professionals? And the first thing I think to share is that when thinking about what to post, this is not your Snapchat or your Facebook. That means you should avoid discussing political or religious preferences, your personal opinions on issues, or avoid posting about social interactions with friends and family. Instead, keep in mind that the mission statement for LinkedIn is to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. So when you join LinkedIn, you're accessing the professional world, people, jobs, news, and updates about the professional workplace and about your specific career field. Here's another important fact about LinkedIn. 93% of all job recruiters come to LinkedIn to find qualified candidates. And according to JobVite's 2016 survey, 87% of those recruiters say that LinkedIn is the most effective platform for finding qualified candidates, especially for candidates under the age of 45. So have no doubt, a well-written LinkedIn profile is essential to your future. And because of the complexity of LinkedIn in this workshop, we're only going to be able to introduce you to the basics. So let's begin with this one. First and foremost, as we said, LinkedIn is a networking platform. So as a degree-seeking student, your first goal should be to develop a professional presence on LinkedIn for the purposes of networking. As you near graduation, perhaps you would have the goal to conduct a job search. But right now, this is the time to begin building your professional network for this simple reason. The vast majority of available jobs are filled through networking. A 2016 survey by LinkedIn with over 3,000 respondents found that 85% of jobs are filled via networking. So the second thing you would like to know is the 3 types of networks that you can focus on and when. We have your operational network, your personal network, or your strategic network. As a degree-seeking student, your focus now would likely be on the personal network or the strategic network in order to meet people who can serve as your coaches, your mentors, and eventually as your references. And third, it's important to network effectively. So as we review the basics for building an effective LinkedIn profile, we're going to emphasize 6 networking strategies, including the importance of updates, personalization, and interaction. So to get us started on the basics of your LinkedIn profile, I'm going to turn back over to David.
Thanks a lot, Christine, and glad to have you as part of my network. Let's begin with the first thing that a viewer sees in your profile, your photo. A photo on LinkedIn is necessary to establish your profile's authenticity. You see, there are spammers on LinkedIn, and that's why one reason that profiles without photos are usually ignored on LinkedIn. The actual stat is having a photo makes your profile 36 times more likely to be viewed. Matter of fact, savvy LinkedIn pros use their photos to strategically project aspects of their personality, enthusiasm, approachability, personal style, professionalism, and other key messages. Here's an example. My LinkedIn profile headline says that I'm a student-centered teacher. Therefore, I used a photo that is casual, relatable, approachable, not a coat and tie administrator or business professional. The multimedia in the background reflects the multimedia portion of my headline. Christine had the same idea. Here we see her in a casual pose working at her desk, hands on keyboard. Her smile is warm and welcoming, which accentuates her summary of herself as a, quote, advocate for students. Now here's a picture of one of my students, Natasha Proctor. Notice the bright smile and the youthful energy in her photo that go perfectly with her headline of ambitious student. Now compare Natasha's photo to these. Oops. Remember, LinkedIn is not Facebook. And also remember the basics of any profile pic. It should be in focus, adequately lighted, and you, the subject, should be making eye contact. In sum, the old saying is true. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. And today, that first impression usually takes place online, often on LinkedIn. Next, Christine is going to give us some tips on writing your LinkedIn headline. Christine?
Thanks, David. Yes, indeed. Your LinkedIn headline is another opportunity to control that first impression that others have of you. Although all sections of your LinkedIn profile are important, your photo and your headline are the most important. Why? Because LinkedIn search, the search section, the search feature of LinkedIn, search results feature your photo and your headline. Therefore, these 2 items must entice the reader to view your entire profile. So think of your headline as your branding statement, which recruiters will spend approximately 6 seconds on, the same amount of time it could take them to scratch their nose. And so other tips for students and entry-level applicants would be that if your goal is an internship or an entry-level position, avoid mentioning your student status. You need to distinguish yourself from the other 3 million yearly graduates who are also looking for work. You have to make your 6 seconds count. So be aspirational. Get out of that recent graduate box. Make those first 5 words of your headline count by talking about the kind of person and worker you are. You're not just a recent accounting graduate. You're a numbers-obsessed accountant and tax preparer with a customer-centric focus ready to win business. Remember, you have 120 characters for your headline. Use them all. Show enthusiasm. Your excitement and enthusiasm are contagious, and it's what recruiters are looking for. You're not just a recent journalism graduate. You're a big data journalist excited for opportunities to make incomprehensible statistics real to readers. And don't forget the keywords. All the adjectives in the world won't do you any good if you aren't indexed on LinkedIn by keywords. To be found, you must think in terms of packing your headline with these important keywords. For example, social worker specializing in family dynamics and early childhood development seeking entry-level counselor position. That headline contains 4 keywords. Now let's look at some other examples. Human resources professional. Great, but that's only a job title. A headline should also tell people who Samantha is, and it should use keywords. That's why Samantha's real headline is Staffing Specialist Dedicated and Driven to Match Qualified Talent with Motivated Clients. Another example, Sales Manager. Great, but again, that tells people what Christian does. However, his real headline is Proven Leader, Accomplished Revenue Driver and Passionate Sales Professional, Always Putting People First. It says who Christian P. Wilkins is, not just what he does, and it incorporates keywords. And speaking of sales, does writing a LinkedIn headline sound to you like you're selling yourself? Well, yes, it's because you are. However, doing this in a headline is really no different than writing a resume that plays up your accomplishments and spotlights your skills and the experiences that you bring to the table. So after this, next comes your contact information. And for that, I'm going to turn this back over to David.
Okay, thanks, Christine. Now, this contact section is relatively straightforward, but it does come with a caution. Avoid putting in a phone number. In addition to privacy issues, there's currently a problem with telemarketers harvesting phone numbers from LinkedIn. On the other hand, an email address is important. We advise that you set up a separate Gmail account just for LinkedIn and your resume responses. Now, some, like co-presenter Christine, choose to limit their contact information to just the LinkedIn profile URL, which is fine because LinkedIn has an excellent system of internal messaging and sends an email alert when you receive a LinkedIn message. The last area of prime real estate in your profile is your summary. This is where you extend your brand, but most importantly, you tell your story the way you want it to be told. This is where you share who you are and what makes you great. Now keep in mind, this summary must be well crafted. You have only 2,000 characters, not words, but characters, which includes spaces and punctuation. So beware of cliches, buzzwords, and empty phrases like highly motivated and driven, for example. Their overuse has made them probably more irritating than meaningful. Now, keywords are a different story. As a matter of fact, they're the whole story. Technically, LinkedIn is simply a large database of profiles. It uses keywords to organize that a massive amount of data. For this section, first think of the top 5 keywords relevant to who you are, what you do, and what you have to offer. Use them in your summary to improve your search rankings. Don't forget that recruiters are skimmers and scanners on the web, not readers. So use lots of white space and bullet lists. Finally, proofread as if your life depended upon it, because it does. Now, here is Sangeetha's excellent student summary. Notice how hers follows the template recommended by LinkedIn. There's a short personal history paragraph followed by a list of competencies that are indeed keywords. Next is the LinkedIn profile. That And it comes with, next is the LinkedIn experience section. That is the next part of your LinkedIn profile. And that Christine is going to cover for us. Christine?
Okay, thanks, David. So our advice for the experience section is to go all out. LinkedIn's research says that if you list more than one position, you are 12 times more likely to be viewed. So here is Natasha's experience section. Notice how similar it is to a good resume. As a matter of fact, this section is one of the reasons why millions of students use LinkedIn as the place for their online resume. Notice that this section is in reverse chronological order, with Natasha's most recent experience first. Next, just like a resume, for each position, there's a position title, including dates and the location. What follows, however, is the all-important list that highlights the responsibilities and achievements that you had while you were in that position. So with these, you will want to be as specific as possible to make this experience more credible and more impressive. Now, the education section will also be like your resume's education section. And here's Sangeetha's. Note that if you're currently enrolled, list your school and the degree that you're working toward, and use the expected graduation date. Also, list any formal training that you've completed or any certificates that you've earned, as Sangeetha does here. And finally, if you've had any volunteer experience, please include that. 41% of hiring managers surveyed, and they were surveyed by LinkedIn, say that they view volunteer experience as equivalent to formal work experience. And 20% of recruiters made a positive hiring decision based on volunteer work experience. So it's a good idea to include that. And then next, we have the skills and endorsements section. And I'm going to turn back over to David to share about that.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Your goal in this section is to list at least 10 core skills that correspond with keywords. Then you should get as many LinkedIn users as you can to endorse you for those skills. Here's a skills and endorsement section. Note that only 3 skills are listed on the opening page. That's because they are the ones that have the highest number of endorsements. Also keep in mind that you can list up to 50 skills, but there's no limit on the number of endorsements that you can have. This skills and endorsement section provides recruiters a quick snapshot of your qualifications and attributes. In other words, it's the value you as an employee bring to the table. And here's another key fact. Your profile is 13 times more likely to be viewed when it has a developed skills section. And remember to get and give as many endorsements as you can. The recommendation section. Recommendations provide proof of what you state in other parts of your profile. So ask for recommendations and give them if you're in a position to do so. It's important to have as many as you can, especially when you're in the job market. Okay, that's it for me. Any final advice, Christine?
Thank you, David. I would like to close with these final thoughts. I would say check your feed every day. As you do, like articles and share them with your connections. Write brief comments on the articles. This activity will increase your presence and it will get you more views. Also, make sure your profile is set for public viewing. Doing so gets your profile indexed by Google and the other major search engines, which increases your exposure. And if you have any privacy concerns, we totally understand. But LinkedIn is for professionals. It's considered a tool. It's not a dating service. So remember that 85% of jobs are filled through networking. And LinkedIn's goal is to help you build a professional network. You really do owe it to yourself to get started on LinkedIn and invest time to develop your professional network. So thank you very much for listening. And I'd like to turn this back over now to Dan.
Thank you very much, Christine and David. It doesn't look like we have any questions at the moment, but I'd like to remind any of our viewers that if you have a question about this presentation, you can post right underneath the YouTube video, or you can always reach out to the Effective Writing Center at writingcenter@umuc.edu. Just to repeat that for clarity, it's Writing Center, all one word, at umuc.edu, and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. And we'll be back in a month with our final hangout of the academic year. In the meantime, please feel free to reach out with all of your writing questions. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you, Christine and David, for this excellent resource.
Our pleasure.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dave.
All right, have a great night.